Good morning. I'm Peter Hurst, the President and CEO of the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. On behalf of the Board of Directors and staff of the Greater New England Council, I want to welcome you to our 2022 Business Opportunity Conference. The theme of our conference is Together We Continue to Rise. Over the next 3 days, we want to celebrate some exciting success stories and share information on some important opportunities for our MBEs to obtain contracts, intellectual capital, and access to financial capital. You have heard me share details of the racial wealth gap that exists in the country and the negative impact that this racial wealth gap has on the U.S. economy in general and on the purchasing power of people of color in particular. On day one of the 2022 conference, we will use 2 panels to share different approaches to helping MBEs grow and prosper and thereby reduce the racial wealth gap. One panel will focus on successful partnerships between our corporate members who are retailers and MBEs who have made it on the shelves of these retailers. This panel will feature representatives from CVS Health and Vibrant Health and from Peapod Digital Labs and Harbar. Given that 42% of New England MBEs have less than $1 million in revenue, but generate only 1% of the aggregate revenue of our MBEs certified by the Council, we cannot get to the promised land of racial wealth equity solely with corporate to MBE commerce. We need to expand the scope and volume of MBE to MBE commerce in order to become larger, not only here in New England, but also across the country. To that end, our second panel on day one is an example of a success story involving an MBE purchasing an important service from another MBE. A representative of Peralta Design and representatives from W3R Consulting will share their journey from initial contact to a very successful business relationship. The highlight of day 2 of the conference will be an extensive conversation between 2 successful entrepreneurs who are also women of color, Vaughn Weaver and Donna Latson-Gittens. Vaughn is the CEO of Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey and the founder of the Nearest Green Foundation. Donna is the founder and CEO of More Advertising, one of our certified MBEs. Day 2 will also feature a presentation by Michael Granger on the services that can be provided by the Massachusetts MBDA Business Center, including a new program to help MBEs sell their goods and services to the federal government. And we'll also hear from Harold Blackwell on a new MBDA-funded initiative designed to help smaller MBEs in New England recover from the aftershocks of COVID-19. All of the services that Harold and Michael will discuss are provided to MBEs without any cost to them. Day 3 will feature separate roundtables, one for our MBEs and one for our corporate members. The MBE Roundtable will feature networking and the introduction of 2 platforms that can help MBEs connect with each other, the Diverse Marketplace and the Diverse Yellow Pages. The Corporate Roundtable will provide opportunities to network and share best practices. Ladies and gentlemen, let me close this morning by thanking the Board of Directors and staff of the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council for their focus, hard work, and commitment to MBE growth and development. Our annual sponsors for their financial support, and all of you for joining us, because together we can continue to rise. Let's get started with our Success Partners panel, which involves 2 retailers who are our corporate members and 2 of our MBEs who have been successful in getting on and, more importantly, staying on the shelves of these retailers. We hope to address 3 themes today. First, for those MBEs who have been successful in getting their product on the shelves of these major retailers, how did it happen? Second, how is the relationship working? from the perspective of the retailers and from the perspective of the MBEs. And third, what are some of the pitfalls that we should be aware of? Our panelists today include Kate Weaver, a GNEMSDC board member and the Supplier Diversity Manager for Peapod Digital Labs, the e-commerce and commercial engine that provides support to Food Lion, Giant Food, The Giant Company, Hannaford, and Stop and Shop. Monette Napick, also a GNEMSDC board member and a dynamic thought leader responsible for supplier diversity at CVS Health. She was instrumental in the induction of CVS Health into the $1 billion roundtable in 2017. Edwin Alvarez, a manager for CVS Health, serving on their supplier diversity team for the last 3 years. Ted and Paige Parker, the co-presidents of Vibrant Health. One of their popular products is Green Vibrance, a product that I've used since 2018 and I swear by it. And finally, Ezekiel Cheque Montemayor. Cheque has been the CEO of his family's business, Harbar, since 2008.
Peapod Digital Labs provides digital, omni-channel, and commercial services for the brands of Ahold Delhaize USA. At PDL, we deliver innovation. We create networks. We share knowledge. We build partnerships. And we invest in the future of these partnerships with programs like our inaugural Accelerator for Diverse-Owned Suppliers.
Our families, our jobs, our schools. These are the communities we serve. And whether it's the current health crisis or whatever comes next, CVS Health is here, delivering care, clinical guidance, and peace of mind. Since our first COVID-19 testing sites launched, we've administered millions of tests, and that's just the beginning. At CVS Pharmacy locations and beyond, we've made testing more accessible and convenient, especially for our most vulnerable populations. Now, as communities begin to come back together, we're here to help. For businesses, we're developing testing plans to help bring employees back to the workplace. For universities, we're designing custom testing strategies to ease the return to campus. And for all of us, that means that as we return ready.
Hi, I'm Ted Parker. My wife Paige and I are the owners and co-presidents of Vibrant Health.
Our love for each other is what brought us together, but it was our shared passion for healthy living and eating that led us to making the best decision of our lives, and that was to become retailers of natural products in 2000 and to purchase Vibrant Health in 2007.
As a family business, we've come a long way and take great pride in providing nutritional supplements that help people live their best lives. Formulated from science and crafted using only high-quality ingredients, our products deliver maximum impact, proven long-term positive health benefits. We stand confidently behind our products and believe in full transparency. That's why we list every ingredient by dose in every Vibrant Health product.
Everyone deserves to live a vibrant and healthy life. So we encourage you to explore our Vibrant Health collection, from superfoods for general health and wellness to condition-specific formulas, to daily vitamins and minerals. Let us support you in your health and wellness journey.
So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed those very informative videos from all of our panelists. It's very clear from those videos that each one of our retailer panelists and each one of our MBEs has an incredible story to share. And we're so fortunate to have them, come here today and talk about a very unusual opportunity for MBEs, and that is to get on the shelves of a major retailer. So as we get started, I'd like to ask Kate to share the basics of the success story that Peapod Digital Labs has with Harbar. Kate.
Great. Well, it's one of my favorite success stories, and one that, I can't take any credit for. Cheque and the Harbar relationship predates my being at the company, but I have to say that I hopefully came on and took him on as a pet project. I thought, okay, he's got so much capability. He could be doing, Harbar could be infiltrating our company in so many more ways than he was when I came on board. So I think what really speaks to his success, though, and I hope everyone hears this, and it's what I've witnessed, and it's what stakeholders that I've worked with have witnessed about Cheque and the Harbar whole team, is that they come with innovation. They come with suggestions and possibilities. They don't come with ask. And there's a big difference there. It's, this is what we're seeing in the industry. This is what we could do. What looks good to you, as opposed to, we've got this new item and we want to get it on your shelf. So I think there's just a slight nuance there in the approach, and it's something that's worked very, very well for Cheque.
So thank you, Kate. Manette or Edwin, could you share with you the basics of the success story that you have at CVS Health with Vibrant Health?
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for this opportunity to be part of this panel. I'll kind of springboard a little bit off of what Kate said. Similarly, Paige and Ted, I think, did a really good job in doing their homework, which I always strongly suggest to our suppliers, whether you're in the not for resale or resale side of our business. Really understand our customers, really understand our footprint, understand where we're going as a business and as an organization. And I think, when we rebranded to CVS Health several years ago, that was an indication that we were going to be more than just your pharmacy. And, I think Paige and Ted did a really good job with that. And we're really proud, and I'm super proud of Edwin and the collaboration that we have with our merchandising professionals. We sit within procurement, and being in procurement, we're really focused on the not for resale. So you really, in our scenario, really need champions on the merchandising side of the house, willing to work with us and really dedicated to, inclusion. And Vibrant Health was part of our pilot that we did back in 2019 to invite diverse suppliers interested in putting their product on the shelf. And again, they showed their agility to be part of something that wasn't fully baked, right, Edwin? I mean, we really have perfected this over the years, but that was our first year trying this out, and it's really exciting. It makes all of our efforts worthwhile when we, see the product on the shelf. But I'm sure we're going to talk more about, the ups and downs and challenges getting to that point. But I'll defer to Edwin to add any additional color commentary I might have missed out on.
Thank you, Monette, and great to be here today. I think Monette and Kate both already highlighted a great point around this. And the only other thing that I would add is when Paige and Ted pitched to us back in 2019, it didn't really feel like they were pitching a product. It felt like they were pitching a product to CVS. And that's what I think was really, really key and what really resonated with many of the folks that were in the room, they did do their homework, as Monette mentioned, and it did feel like they were talking to us, which really resonated with the group.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Manette. It's interesting that, we have as the topic of this panel success stories. And we can be glib about what success is, but I'd love to hear from Vibrant Health's perspective and Harbor's perspective, as well as from CVS Health's perspective and Peapod Digital Labs perspective. How do you define success?
Should we go first?
Sure.
I think success is really understanding what your customer is looking for in a supplier, and then also understanding where you are in that kind of transition or journey. One thing when Edwin and I first met, which was 2018, 2019, the question was, are you sure you want to be in Vibrant Health, and why do you want to, not Vibrant Health, CVS, why do you want to be in CVS? And are you sure you want to be here? And I said, yeah, we definitely want to be here. But one thing it gave me is some time to think about it. And one thing, when you decide that you want to be in a CVS, you have to be persistent, be polite, and be patient. Take your time with it, because it's a big decision. You are putting yourself out there to go into, a footprint of stores that maybe you've never even experienced before. But this comes at a risk. There are a lot of things to weigh there. The order sizes are not small. They are quite large. CVS is going to be looking for you to be able to deliver on a consistent basis. So take your time, think about it. Understand what the ramifications are. Understand what your expiry is on your products. I can't stress that enough. You have to be able to deliver in the short term and the long term. And the upfront costs could be significant. So think about it. And I'm glad Edwin asked that question, because it really gave us some time to think about it, and to be persistent, and to be patient with it. And at the end of the day, it was a wonderful success. We're very happy to be there.
So with that, go ahead. I'm sorry, Paige.
Yeah, no, I'd like to just build on that. I think success is finding the right partner. And that is, in holistic, sense of the word, is making sure that that partner wants a relationship with you that is not just based on numbers, although that's very important for both companies, right? For a partnership to work, it's got to be a win-win, but also that's committed to your long-term success. And by taking your time, making sure that you do your due diligence, make sure that you find the right product that customer is looking for, that is going to have success within that relationship, is really the beginning and the end of a success story, in my opinion. And as both Edwin and Monet mentioned, this is a conversation that began several years ago, but more impactfully, it started in 2019. And we finally made it on the shelves last year. So that was several years in the making. But we truly feel that, we're with the right partner, we have the right product mix, and we've got all the backing from an internal perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, and a relationship, right, perspective, from partnership.
So I heard 4 P's: persistence, polite, patience, and the right partner. So thank you for that. Cheke, how do you define success in terms of your relationship with Peapod Digital Labs?
I don't think I'm gonna find more peace, but I'll give it a try. But I may find one. The way we see it in the short term, it starts with performance, good execution. Kind of do what you agreed to, kind of do your part of the agreement. and for us, that is key, so, and it's not an easy thing when you're talking about, the standards required to work with these big companies, and there's a lot of homework that goes into that, but then there's also kind of the moment of truth when you need to produce and deliver week after week. So we take that really, really strong to heart. As we start getting that under our belt, we start kind of expanding our view of success, right? It's about growth of the, that we're making this work for both everybody involved, right? So the category needs to grow, right? This is not just like, oh, we're selling whatever we're selling, but we're selling. This needs to feel and appear and evidence as growth for the two partners in this, because we're doing something of value to a consumer. So we look at that consistently. Are we growing the category? Third, here goes another P. It needs to be profitable, right? Of course, first we need to grow, grow the pie, and then your hopefully your homework was correct, and it's profitable for you, right? Because it's going to be, key for long-term success. And as we go along, then we look at other things. Are we growing versus the industry versus, the market? Another key success metric for us of success, another key metric of success would be if we can continue the relationship over an extended period of time, right? Because products needs changes, customer needs changes, it's an evolving thing, and you need to adapt and listen to the customer over time. And for us, a measure of success is if we are given the vote of confidence for another year, and for another year, or for another product, or for another group of stores, and that's a measure of success as well.
So thank you, Cheke. So one common misconception I think that most vendors, especially MBs, have that you meet someone at a business opportunity conference, and a week later you're going to get an order. And we know that's just totally unrealistic in general, but I'm sure it's even more unrealistic when you're talking about getting on the shelf of a major retailer. So looking at, achieving success is a journey and a process. I'd love to get your perspectives, both from the retailer side and the MBE side. What's the journey and the process like in terms of getting your product on the shelf? Once you get the product on the shelf, check it at the point you just made, moving the product so that someone's buying it, making sure that you meet the retailer's objectives in terms of volume and profitability, and making sure that you meet the MBE's objectives in terms of volume and profitability. Could you all, from your own different perspectives, share with everyone who's listening and watching today what that process and that journey looks like?
I'd like to start. Oh, sorry.
No, please.
No, you guys have definitely been at this longer, and you probably have lots of good nuggets to share. But I just want to say, from the retailer's perspective, especially the supplier diversity practitioner that's on the retail side, we are playing the long game. We are playing the long game. And you mentioned in the beginning that if people ever follow my social media, that they'll see suppliers that I promote. Yes, and I love to use my voice that way, but I want everyone to realize that I don't just usually throw a supplier on there that has just recently landed on our shelf. I'm usually highlighting a supplier that's kind of a long tried and true supplier that I do not think is about to be yanked, because wouldn't that be horrible for me to post something on my own social media? Customers get excited, go to their local Stop and Shop, their local Hannaford, and then it's not there. So that would be horrible all the way around. So I think everyone's heard the phrase, Getting on the shelf is the easy part. It's the staying on the shelf that's the hard part. And I'm sure we're going to address this a lot more in this next couple of minutes. And I'm sure Paige and Ted and Cheke will tell us their secrets of success. But when we talk about the long game, I guess I would say that it's just such a slow burn. And the thing that I think potential CPG brands that are trying to get in retail don't factor in a lot, that they know it's going to be a long game, and they know they've got to do a lot of schmoozing and pitching and whatever. They don't get that the internal culture, things change so rapidly. I can't tell you how often category managers change or desk change. And I was just pitching that brand to this one person last week, and now they're on a different desk, and now I have to start over that process all over again. So that I have found to be a huge learning and a huge way that I have to be adaptable and have to pivot and have to not get frustrated. And then I would say that supply chain issues are the other big question mark that are in this, and that has thrown everyone for a wrench. But right now, but even pre-pandemic, I think that's what people don't realize takes so long. Yeah, you've been approved. Yeah, you got a PO. But now you have to wait for your product to get to the DC and for the DC to distribute it and for the reset to happen. And all that is just, that can absolutely take a year right there in what I mentioned. So yes, Paige, Ted, I want you to talk about your experience with that. I'd love for CVS to also tell me if they feel me on those things.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It's like dating and waiting for the engagement ring. Right? I mean, you're dating, everything's going well, you get the phone calls, you get the notes, the little love letters, but you're just waiting for the ring. And the ring, for me, it was the agreement, right? You've passed through the stages of legal, you understand contractually what is going to be needed from your brand. From that partnership, you've dotted your I's, you've crossed your T's, and now you're ready to put the order in and get the order on the shelves. And so that, as I mentioned earlier, took from 2019, and it only happened last October 2021, so almost 3 years. But I think that again, it's the long game, and you have to think about not only getting on the shelf, as you mentioned, but staying on the shelf. And you do so by making sure you're in the right stores. That's the first thing. Don't try to get into every location all at once. You have to grow, you have to scale. To have proof of concept. Is your product in demand? Do you have repeat sales? And once you've got those two things under your belt and you're communicative with your retail partner, then you can start to talk about bringing in more SKUs and testing, proof of concept again. But patience, perseverance, planning, and then, as Cheke said, profitability. Is this a profitable relationship overall? So, yeah.
I think for me, Peter, from my perspective, you asked about the process. Quite frankly, it's just going to look and feel different for every single supplier. But if I had to give it a general answer, I would say to the supplier to remember that the larger the corporate entity it is that you're trying to work with, the more people that you need involved. You're going to talk to category managers, you're going to talk to supplier diversity professionals, you're going to talk to folks in, as Paige mentioned, in legal, folks in accounts payable, contracts. So you almost need this critical mass of people all working towards the same goal, which is getting that supplier onto the shelf for it to work. You're not going to go to a Greater New England event, meet one supplier diversity professional, and then see your product sitting on the shelves in 6 months. You're going to probably talk to at least 5 people throughout that process all of them responsible for a different component. So you just have to really remember that you're going to have very similar conversations multiple times with multiple people, but again, all working towards that same end goal.
Yeah, I agree. I think the stakeholder conversation is not just external, it's also internal. You know, there are so many stakeholders within your own business that you need to sit down and take your time and talk to and tell them about your vision of going on the shelves at a CVS. Make sure that you include all the stakeholders, because you may have, you know, quite a few of them can ask some really tough questions. And those are all good questions. You know, whether or not you're ready, you know, what is it going to cost? What is the potential opportunity cost? You know, there's a lot to think about and talk about. So yeah, I absolutely agree. You know, those conversations that we've had with the CVS team have been, you know, integral. But, you know, I think the conversations really began with our internal stakeholders, our team members, and whether or not they felt we were ready to go into CVS.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Ted mentioned being polite and how that's so helpful and so necessary. I'm going to throw in another P for Check A. It's personality and to be personable. And that's probably hard to do when you're going through this onslaught of meetings, to have just a little spark of personality. But just remember that the category managers, and I'm going to speak in tortillas and health supplements, I'm going to speak in those two mediums. They are reviewing tons of tortilla brands and they are reviewing tons of supplement brands. So really, if the packaging looks about the same, if the ounce count is just about the same, the only thing that's different is maybe a little bit of the price and maybe a little bit of the coloring on the packaging. What is different? You are different, the supplier. And that's, I think, how you can stand out. There's this thing that Check A said in many meetings that not only I heard that I loved, but it came back to me tenfold, because everyone's like, that Check A guy, he's so great. He would say, we have a line of offerings so that no tortilla lover is left behind. I love that. It's the best phrase. And not one other tortilla manufacturer was saying something that had that personality. And I'm convinced that that's how, just another reason he has grown and further kind of ingratiated himself in our business. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that P out.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to do a shout out too to the Greater New England Supply Development Council, because it all starts with the advocacy. It starts with us as supplier diversity professionals who are, you know, your voice within a very large organization. It's not easy for us to navigate, let alone you as an outsider navigating. So, you know, the first step is your involvement with the advocacy group. Often Peter or Joanne Wong will send me a supplier, say, hey, do you have time to just, you know, spend 30 minutes and talk to them? It's amazing what, you know, that 30-minute conversation, I only wish we could do more of them. And I always say too, be careful what you wish for. It is difficult. Remember that it's shelf space. I don't know about you, but when you walk down your CVS pharmacy or, you know, Hannaford's or whatever, you never really see an empty spot waiting for your product to be plugged in. So remember that you're more than likely displacing another supplier, as sad and as bad as that may seem, right? So what's going to differentiate you and your product and make the consumer select yours over an incumbent that's also sitting on the shelf that you're competing with, right? So when we talk about success, I always say sustainability and agility, because you may try certain products like Vibrant Health. I think we have 3 different products. We may decide, hey, this one's not maybe as popular. Let's try this one. So you have to be adaptable as well, right? And be able to quickly shift and meet the needs of the corporate members.
Yeah, Monet, I couldn't agree with you more when it comes to advocacy. And, you know, Peter is, you know, one that reaches out, and the team that he has is incredible in that way. You know, Peter came to, we didn't even know Peter. He just showed up at our door one day. Literally. Just
looking for free food.
And he was just like, you know, listen, I hear you're a member. And we didn't know each other because the previous president we had met But when Peter came on board, I think one of his first stops was just to come introduce himself to us, which, you know, that's the kind of advocacy that you kind of latch onto and say, you know, I'm going to grab him by the coattails and have him teach us how to do this. So we take our hats off to the whole organization.
Absolutely.
It's been really tremendous.
So one thing I'd like to circle back to, I know that I've heard everyone say from both the retailer side and MBE side that it's harder to stay on the shelf than it is to get on the shelf. But let's sort of talk into some detail, if you can, about what did it take to get on the shelf? Because I do remember that first meeting when you pitched CVS Health. I was fortunate enough to be able to sit there and was impressed with both the tag team of Paige and Ted. But from your perspective, could you just share with us, like from the initial contact to actually getting the product on the shelf, what happened? And from both, you know, Ted and Paige's perspective and Jacque's perspective.
I'd like to take a stab at that play a little bit more into your P challenge. But so I mean, I think it starts with patience, right? You know, and what do I mean by that is it's going to take a while. It's going to take some cash. You're going to need some runway, because if you are you know at the very early entrepreneurial phase and think that this is, you know, I can do this, if I can only get this in the next 2 or 3 months, I'm going to be good. It's a lot of pressure, right? It's almost like you need to budget yourself. You know, it's going to take a year, it's going to take 2 years, you know, and be able to have the endurance during that period, right? The patience. The other is the presentation, like in you know, when I think about the presentation, I'm thinking like having that clarity of your customer, having a good value proposition, and how you are going to help, you know, this retailer grow, and really want to present it in a very clear way. Kate, personality maybe, but just kind of very clear and candid way. And then I also think that sometimes you can't do this alone, right? So you need the partnerships, right? And the partnerships can be the advocacy groups, certainly. It can also be, you know, depending on the category, you might need to partner up with distributors. You might need to partner up with a broker sales agency. You might need to partner internally in the organization with the multiple departments. So I think about it as kind of partnerships. And finally, I think you need to be ready to do a great proposal. One that you can afford, but especially, you know, I kept thinking about this because it's very easy to say, well, you start small and grow, but I can't imagine being in so many entrepreneurs' shoes. How do you break the chicken and the egg, right? How do you start it? Okay, and besides the patience, the presentation, and the partnerships, I'm thinking about that proposal, another P, needs to be stellar, right? You know, what are you offering to this retailer at this moment of time? And something that you can afford, but it needs to be something that you show that you're willing to really support your initiative and back it up.
Yeah, I really have to agree with Cheque. It's really not just focusing on the top line opportunity, but what's the bottom line? What is it going to cost? And taking the time to do the proposal. And I know it's not, you know, by design that it does take time, right? But it's a good thing. It really is a good thing, and embrace it. Trust me, you're going to need the time to put together a proposal and to really think about it. And I said earlier about meeting with your stakeholders. you need to sit down with finance. That's the
Mhm.
first place you need to go. You need to sit down with finance and kind of put together an imaginary, like wish list of product and store allocation, where you'd like to see yourself within CVS. But then sit down with your key accounts team if you have one. If you don't, sit down with your spouse, kind of talk about how you're going to manage this key account, your business partner. Yeah, your business partner. Well, in this case, my spouse. Sorry. So you really, and business partner, but you really need to kind of sit down and with those stakeholders, again, take the time, embrace the time it's going to take, because you're going to need it.
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to add is product and price point. Now we have about 29 different SKUs. Well, actually products within the Vibrant Health
60
range.
SKUs, yeah.
And our top selling product, which is Green Vibrance, that's holds 5 positions on SPINS data, was the product that we would have liked to see on the shelf at CVS. But when we sat down with the folks at CVS and they went through our portfolio, they realized, and based on the market research that they've done, that the cholesterol product, our metabolic product, and our cleanse were the better product choices and at the right price point for their consumers. So there was a lot of consumer insight that needs to be taken into consideration. So it's not necessarily what you want to have on the shelf, but what your partner feels will do well, and will translate to the customers. And if you can get those things right, then I think that the long-term partnership is more solidified, as opposed to, well, your products didn't do well and you'll have to, we're going to give you credit and, we'll stay friends. To ensure that that's not the outcome, take your time, decide on what products are going to be the right fit, and make sure you can achieve a price point that's not only profitable for your company, but also as a value add for the consumer.
So to piggyback on that page, all of you have talked about that it's probably more difficult to stay on the shelf than to get on the shelf. Which for someone who's not in the game might seem counterintuitive, but from everyone's perspective, how does an MBE, once they get on the shelf, how do they stay on the shelf?
I have another P for you.
Okay.
They pray. No,
No, I think I'm say promote.
Oh, I mean, I think I'm surprised and I won't say, just diverse owned brands. I see it from just a lot of brands that just kind of think you're going to be on the shelf and you're instantly going to go on the basket. And then sometimes I see some really, really scrappy, just small little brands doing some really cool stuff on social media. And I'm sure I've taken screenshots and sent it to a lot of my diverse owned suppliers. I'm like, go have someone that if you're not in that town, go have your mama, your cousin, a friend, whatever, an ex-boyfriend, have them go stand with your product in front of the store so you can see the Stop and Shop sign in the background and take a picture and say, now available at Stop and Shop. And tag Stop and Shop on your social media. I mean, because Stop and Shop's not going to do that for you, so you have to do that yourself. So there's some really, really easy ways just to promote that you're there. But it's like if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it. I mean, if no one knows you're there, and I think Chuck hit the nail on the head. If you don't have the money to spend on some big promotions through the retailer, because they'll definitely offer them for you, right? A lot of shopper marketing programs and ads and end caps, that all takes money. If you don't have that money, then what can you do just yourself? And I think there's lots of options. To answer your question though, very succinctly, because I have trouble doing that, there is no one way to get in the basket.
Yeah.
You have to try a million different tactics, and you have to lean into them all. I'd be interested to know what after CVS talks about their tricks, about the most successful tactics that Paige and Ted and Check have found to get in the basket.
why I love working with Kate. It's like we're like at the blended. So she took a lot of my thunder away, but there is a P. It's promote, and I agree with Kate. Social media is so so important, and it's such a great medium. But I have seen a lot of, I like the term scrappy, but there's a lot of ways. I mean, we have our own, LinkedIn profiles and social media, and you do as well. And then there's Instagram and Facebook, and you're right. Just say, hey, we're out there. Go find us. Because you're right. We've gone away from the traditional circulars this year, so everything's digital. So that's, again, maybe an opportunity to talk to your category manager partner, just to find out where can we and how can we promote our product within the social media platform. So I think it's something that requires, so just because you got it on the shelf, you got to keep that line of communication open with your category partner to find out what else can we do. So promote, another P.
Wait, but before everyone goes, I'll give it one more P, placement, and let me explain that. I can't tell you how many suppliers I go to their website and it says like find us, and I click on that and it doesn't show Stop and Shop or Hannaford, but yet I know that they're in there. And I'm like, why? How is it not listed? And I guess it's because they work through a big distributor, and the distributor doesn't give them their list that tells them exactly the stores they're in. But I would say that's really key to make sure that on your own company's website, your customers know where to find you down to the zip code level. Okay, Edwin, take it away.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, what I was going to mention is just a different way of saying what Monette and Kate have been talking about already, which is I believe that many suppliers, especially many new retail suppliers, they have the wrong perspective when they're being considered to be placed into a major retailer's stores. And what I mean by that is the supplier may think CVS has 13,000 stores that can sell my product. CVS isn't looking at it like that. The way the supplier should be looking at it is CVS has 13,000 stores where I can drive people to buy my product. So as Monette and Kate mentioned, it's really about what are you consistently and constantly doing to bring additional traffic to our stores, because you really need to make sure that there's a customer base that's actively going to these locations to purchase your product if you want to stay there.
Yeah.
Some things to consider is that you need to build into your price or into your investment fund some monies to be able to promote. I've been approached by entrepreneurs in the past that say, well, so this is my cost. I can do this really well. I can put it this cost, and the retailer can make a huge margin when they say, well, but who's going to promote? I ask, and that money needs to come from the brand, right? And that's when it throws away, many people's equations, like, oh, right, I don't have money for that. Well, then it's time to go back to the whiteboard to find something that will have your cost, your profit, promotional money, and then that's the landed cost to the retailer, right? So really planning for that from the get-go rather than getting surprised after a lot of years of work and not having that built in, I think is key. And then it's a matter of how do you allocate it, right? And that's a changing landscape. And the way we see it here is, there's trade promotions and then there's consumer promotions, and you want to have both, and we need to be kind of careful, and sorry about about the retailers here, but sometimes the retailers' incentive is just kind of invest as much as possible in these trade promotions. But if you're not careful and you put all your budget into that, then you don't have consumer promotional money. So you need to kind of work with a retailer on the promotional on the trade promotional piece and save some money for the consumer promotional piece.
And check more because I think, I'm sorry, I don't know if you were done. I just wanted to build on.
Well, I just wanted to explain like a quick explanation. Trade promotion could be like, you know, the circulars or just kind of the retailer says, hey, buy one, you know, buy two for the price of one. On that, you work with a retailer and it comes out of, you know, it usually comes out of, you know, the brand's money. There might be a little bit of collaboration on that, but you need to be ready to support that price discount at the retailer level. Whereas the consumer promotional piece is, you know, it has become in a way easier than, it has never been easier than this time around. It's very competitive, but it's easier to access it with social media, and you can geo-target it, you know, your promotional money to the zip code of you know, of the stores that you have distribution for. So I think it's a great new era for entrepreneurs. You do not need to do TV campaigns or big, you know, billboards. You can really direct your spending in a very efficient way as well, but you still need to build that war chest before you start.
Yeah.
So I know we're here to talk about success stories, but we all know in business there are risks, there are issues, there are failures. Can all of you share with us some of the pitfalls that MBEs and retailers need to be thinking about, as well as some horror stories? Because I'm sure for as many, you know, transactions on both the retailer side and MBE side that have gone well, there have been some absolute disasters. And I think you learn as much from failure as you do from success.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Cheke more when it comes to entrepreneurs. You know, entrepreneurs are driven to focus on top line. That's, you know, kind of built into our DNA. But you really need to focus on the bottom line and focus on, you know, as Cheke said, kind of that war chest of, you know, how are you going to promote this? How are you going to, you know, make sure you have a high enough margin to really promote your product and to promote your brand? So, you know, that has to be done. But, you know, regarding horror stories, I wouldn't call them horror stories, Peter, as much as I call them learning lessons, because they really are. I mean, sure, they're
through one.
Yeah, so Paige will kind of tell you one that you don't have to mention names of the retailer, but a large retailer.
Yeah,
pharmacy.
about 10 years ago, we were approached by a large pharmacy chain that was looking into expanding into the wellness business, and they wanted to create like a store within a store experience. So they had like select brands there. They even changed the decor in that store area so it would feel different and be more enticing. And they went after the best brands in every category. So they went after fiber and probiotics. So they brought in Renew Life. We were the top leading green superfood. So they came after us, and we chose 8 products, 8 SKUs to go in on the shelves with. And filled an order, one of the largest orders that we've ever had in the history of the company. And we were celebrating. What we didn't do, to Cheke's point, was have a budget for how are we going to drive customer awareness. And I'm going back 10 years ago. So social media wasn't anything like it is today. And you needed a significant amount of money to do trade, to go into the circular, to participate in some of their wellness education programs. And because we didn't do any of those things, our products just
and price point.
And the price point, our products dried up. There wasn't the turns that were necessary for us to remain on the shelf. And about 8 months after, you know, the first product placement hit the shelves, we got hit with a very large credit, and they were returning pretty much 50% of the product
20%.
that we sold to them, and it was devastating. I can say it was devastating to us as a company financially. We had a $800,000 exposure. We were able to pivot, bring the product back. We were able to resell most of it because it still had a pretty long shelf life. And, we weren't any worse for the wear, but we learned what we needed to learn from that. And everything that was shared today, I wish I had heard 10 years ago. So I think this is a fantastic conversation to be having because there are more and more minority-owned, diverse businesses that make a great product, but they might not be ready and they might not have the resources now to go on the shelf of a large retailer.
And plan.
And right, but they can strive to make that happen in the future with the support of this organization and just listening to folks who have done it and are having success with that.
So Kate, Manette, Edwin, any pitfalls, horror stories you want to share with us?
I have a doozy of a one, and I'll try to keep it brief because I know I've been interrupting people. I'm so sorry. Years ago, I worked for another grocery store chain in Florida, and there was a supplier that she was NMSDC certified, Black-owned supplier. She had a spice and seasoning line. She had been on QVC. She was really doing well. She was in the local papers. So she'd never really done a retail packaged item, though, for the shelf. And after I worked with her and got her UPC and nutritional testing and all that, nutritional label, we got her in. And she convinced me that she could do DSD. So for those of you who know, but for those of you who don't, that means direct store delivery, meaning she was just going to take the spices and seasonings to every store. It's actually not really accepted anymore unless you're in like the loaf of bread business. I mean, or soda. It doesn't really happen a lot nowadays because you work through big distributors for, I'm sure there's lots of reasons, but in any case, she did, and she was authorized for, I'm going to say maybe 200 stores, and she rented a U-Haul with her family and took a couple of weeks off of school and work, and they loaded all these cardboard shippers and their U-Haul and dropped it off at all 200 stores. So things were going well, right? Sales were going well. We were tracking every week, and I was looking, and I was excited. She was excited. She knew she was going to be the next big thing. And then I started getting the calls from all the store managers saying, "Yeah, I'm going to need a bill back on these. I'm going to need to get some credit." And I said, what do you mean? They're selling fine. They're selling well. They're perfect. Got a big holiday coming up. Everyone needs seasonings for their turkeys and their birds. And it was because they were expiring little by little, week by week. They were seeing the expiration date on the bottom of the seasoning. So wasn't, as Paige said, it wasn't turning fast enough. I get chills when I think about this. And this has kept me up many, many nights since that, because to make that call to her, to ask her to now go back on the U-Haul and pick up, is like just a walk of shame, right? Having to go and pick up all this product that has expired that she could not resell to anyone else, and then issue a check back to the company. I mean, it bankrupted her. Like, she filed for bankruptcy. And it is a huge horror story. And I remember it all the time. But I think the lesson that we can take out of that is that, one, I don't think you should DSD, but also I think you have to, if you do have a perishable product or any product that has an expiration date, you got to be real conservative about the inventory that you're dropping off at a store, because if it's selling well, the retailer will reorder. So that even if you have to wait a little bit for that reorder, it's much better. Isn't that just the worst horror story? I'm sorry I had to share.
That's very instructive, though. I'm glad you shared it. Manette, Edwin?
Yeah, not so much a really bad story. Not to say that there probably aren't some in there, but not that I'm personally. And of course, this is any supplier for that matter, right? It has nothing to do with, your minority status or what have you. One of the things I really think we do well and strongly suggest as you're exploring opportunities with other corporate members is we have different types of merchandising pilot programs. So for example, we don't carry everything in our store that you might find on our .com site. So durable medical equipment, for example, not all of our stores have the square footage to be able to accommodate all of that type of equipment, but you can buy it online, right? So maybe that's a better fit for you. Kate's example of maybe your product is not meant for all of our stores because it really resonates with a particular, ethnicity. So maybe it's a spice or a sauce or something like that. So know your audience, right? So again, maybe you're better off in a small, we have some EMOS stores, for example. So maybe your product would do well in the EMOS stores, but maybe not in the others. And when there's a couple of other examples too, right? And maybe Paige and Ted, you guys have gone through sort of more of that, what I would call a pilot. So you're not investing as much upfront. You're really getting the opportunity to test the market. And so it's hopefully more of a win-win scenario than just diving right in, right? Take baby steps into the water.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
best parts is that there are opportunities like that in working with CVS that you don't have to go into 13,000 stores all at once. You can take your time and you can kind of go in and test it out. And I'm so happy that was an option for us as MBEs.
Mm-hmm.
What I would share is similar to the example that Kate provided and that Paige provided as well. And that's just, generally speaking, overcommitting yourself. One of the, in many of the presentations or pitches, meetings that I've sat in on with category managers, one of what I feel is almost like a gotcha question at this point is when the category manager asks, well, how many stores can you fit into? And when the supplier says, as many as you need me to be in, that right there, that's when the red flags go up. Because every single supplier is built differently. And, just because Johnson & Johnson may have a product in all of our stores doesn't necessarily mean that, John Smith down the road, who's doing great, can still compete on that same level as a Johnson & Johnson. So I would say, generally speaking, overcommitting yourself is a major, major pitfall. No one knows your business better than you. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll know what you're capable of. You should be upfront about that. And the more transparent you are in that area, I think the better the relationship can carry itself as it develops.
So Checky, you're going to have the last word today. Share with us, what you've seen as pitfalls, and if you have any horror stories you want to share to take us home.
I'll share one and kind of build up on what Edwin was talking about, the overcommitment. Sometimes the overcommitment happens without you really seeing it happen, right? Until it hits you. And I'll talk about a situation happened to us around 15 years ago. Our product was selling really well in some stores, some supermarkets. We were just starting. So all of a sudden, another supermarket said, we want your product. And you said, okay, new retailer, why not, right? And we just didn't do the right homework to see like how much we could really sell to that to the consumer base of that retailer. And so we started doing business, and we're in the fresh business. So all of a sudden we start and we put in some promotions to support that product and so on. And this was a different, just kind of a different set of conditions than what we're used to. We were used to a situation where our product was right on for the consumer, so we will have a lot of sales per store. Here we are with a different consumer. Sales were not going to be huge per store, but we just didn't know that to what extent. However, the retailer, started and say, well, we're going to start placing some big POs because we're doing some very big promotions from the beginning. but the POs were huge, huge. And we just said, is this right? Yeah, sure. And this is what our model says. That's what the buyer of the retailer would say. And you say, well, of course, if we're gonna sell this, great. Well, of course, it didn't sell too well. The product has a short shelf life. And then, when the shelf life expired and not everything has sold through, we got charged back at a higher cost even than what we sold the product, because there's fees to dispose the product, and extra margin because it went down the supply chain and so on. So it was a huge bill back that we got, and it was because we didn't do the right homework of saying, this is how much we expect to sell in these retailers. So we need to work and have aligned expectations of the retailer of what a startup order should be, not overloaded. I mean, well, it took us around 3 to 6 months to recuperate from that one. Fortunately, we had some cushion to survive it, but if we had been in a different situation, that could have put us out of business.
Well, that's very instructive. So let me wrap up. I want to really thank you. I think this has been a fascinating conversation. I want to thank Kate, Manette, Edwin, Paige, and Ted, and Cheke. I think you shared a lot of great information with those in attendance about what it takes to get on the shelf, more importantly, what it takes to stay on the shelf, and probably for them a very inexpensive lesson, some of the pitfalls and horror stories that you all have experienced from the retailer side and from the MBE side. So I want to thank you for sharing all this great information. I want to thank all of the attendees who signed in today. And also I want to thank, the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council's annual sponsors. I want to thank my board of directors and my staff. Our next panel today is focused on MBE to MBE partnerships. How do we grow together? This panel will address the opportunities and challenges of pursuing MBE to MBE commerce, which can include client-vendor relationships, teaming arrangements to pursue opportunities, including prime subcontractor arrangements and joint ventures. Our panelists today include Carolyn Ball, Ramon Peralta, and Eric Hardy. Ramon is the founder and creative director of Peralta Design. Ramon, who is on the board of GNEMSDC, proudly leads the multicultural, multidisciplinary team at Peralta Design, personally ensuring that the desired look and feel of every project launch sequence is communicated consistently across the entire brand's digital footprint, whether it be a website, video, social campaign, digital strategy, or printed marketing materials. Ramon is also a servant leader who serves as Chief Creative Advisor for Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He volunteers for Junior Achievement, speaks to underprivileged youth, and serves on numerous nonprofit boards. Eric is the president and CEO of W3R Consulting. Eric has overseen the firm's expansion from its inception in 1995. Under his leadership, W3R is one of the Midwest's fastest growing African-American owned and operated technical consulting firms. He too is a servant leader and has been making a difference in the lives of others since his college days. While in college, he served as a tutor and mentor in the Detroit area pre-college engineering program. He is the former chairman of the Michigan Black Chamber of Commerce and has been affiliated with the Henry Ford Health System Board of Directors since 2008. Carolyn is the Vice President of Strategy and Client Solutions for W3R. As the firm's Director of Business Development for Advanced Analytics, she enjoys providing services that help clients address organizational challenges and shape departmental vision. Her primary goal is to help businesses grow and prosper by providing data-driven insights that foster improvements in all operational areas.
One of the first things that we did was look at all the pain points that surround agencies. And at our industry, the response time was a big pain point, and the lack of transparency was a big pain point. And how do you learn that? It's when you're interacting with clients that have come to you after they've had a bad experience somewhere else. So I realized early on that our model was going to be different and that we were going to build a full-time staff.
So you have an idea, you have this great concept, and we want to get that pie in the sky vision. But you might not have the budget for it right away, and that's fine.
The reason brand identity is so important within digital marketing is the consistency of the brand.
I'm Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we
launch brands.
So folks, let's get started. I'd like to start with Ramon. And Ramon, if you could just share with those in the audience, what does Peralta Design do?
Yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you. It's a great question, especially watching the video. You see, we emphasize we launch brands, and what that actually means is that we help companies, even large companies, small companies, entrepreneurs, nonprofits. We help them launch new products or services in the digital space, and sometimes that means relaunching them in the digital space. And so we focus on three primary areas: branding, which encompasses brand messaging, the narrative for the brand, as well as the identity for the brand, all the creative and the look and feel. And then we do the web presence, right? So that means web development. It also means establishing a digital footprint for the company, a consistent one across all the social platforms, as well as improving and creating a good user experience for their target, making sure that now that we have the messaging and the look, that the house is in order, so to speak. And then the third pillar would be the digital marketing aspect. And in digital marketing, you're driving traffic to the website and hoping to convert visitors, but you're also doing some brand awareness and raising the awareness of keeping the company or the brand on the radar of this target. And we do that primarily with email marketing, Google ads, and social media marketing, which cover Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Thank you. Very interesting. Eric, Andrew, Carolyn, can you share with the audience what W3R Consulting does?
Yes, thank you, Peter. And we've been on this journey for 27 years, and it's been quite a fulfilling experience. We started out as a full-service IT consultancy company, and we find ourselves today a little more specialized around industries, markets, and particular service offerings. So we focus primarily today on healthcare insurance, in addition to financial services like banks and wealth management, with a go-to-market focus around everything that's data-driven. Carolyn is one of our leaders that helps to bridge that gap for us between what it is that we do in a conversational way with our customers. And this is why working with Peralta is kind of an exciting experience to get a fresh look at how it is we want to tell our story and how we show up to the rest of the world. So Carolyn, what would you add to this question of what is it that we do and what do we bring to the marketplace?
Yeah, thanks, Peter and Eric. So definitely, as Eric said, we provide IT consulting solutions to the marketplace, predominantly in the industries that he focused on. Strong competency in the data management space, all things data throughout that entire life cycle and pipeline, from beginning architecture and road mapping all the way through the transformation process and serving that data up to our to the customers and clients and business users. So we focus a lot in both business and IT. So we're across the enterprise, and that competency is delivered both from a staffing perspective and in a solutions more managed service capability. It's been a pleasure. I'm excited that Ramon is here from Peralta Design, because as Eric kind of alluded to a little bit, my passion really kind of lies in projecting our persona, W3R's expertise and brand in alignment with our customers. So it's been a great relationship, and we're excited to share the story.
So thank you. So as I shared at the outset, MBE to MBE partnerships can take a lot of forms. It can be client vendor relationships, it can be teaming relationships, it can be joint ventures. Can you share with us, what's the nature of the business relationship between Peralta Design and W3R Consulting?
So it's really multifaceted. I think there's definitely a story to how that evolved. Right now, it's a combination of professional business relationship as a client and vendor, as well as a personal friendship that we've developed really through the council. It's been a pleasure to be able to meet Ramon through a fireside chat that we did last May, I believe that it was, and that relationship evolved over time to getting to know Ramon, getting to know Peralta Designs, what they have to offer, and then translating that and parlaying that into something that was a need for us as an organization at W3R Consulting. Again, I think Ramon offers that all of the three core areas that he focused on with branding and what our image and representation is in the marketplace, in the digital marketplace, website design. Those were all things that were at the forefront of our mind, and timing wise, something that needed a refresh for us. And so that evolution occurred from developing a strong relationship and getting to know him, and then evolving that into the business relationship.
Ramon, from the
sure.
guy doing the works perspective.
I'll chime in. I like to use the house metaphor because a lot of people start spending money on digital marketing and driving traffic, and it's like sending an invitation to your home for a party, and when people get there, they might not be the right guests for you, or they might not know where the front door is and they leave. So, and if they are the people you want to invite, they might not come back. And so in W3R's case, as happens with many companies, the lifespan of a website, think of it almost in dog years, right? It's the technology advances, the customer's attention span shortens. There are new tools that can be employed, new devices. And what happens with many websites is you keep adding additions. If you've ever driven by a house that started out as a cape, and then they just kept, adding rooms to it, it's functional, but it may not be the most efficient way to get through the house from one end to the other. And so sometimes you have to start over. And in this case here, I think we're bringing in some brand clarity to really define their evolution and where they are now as a company, but also make it easier and more attractive to their target user to come in and get where they need to go much faster, which in turn increases the likelihood of them converting. And whether it's talent or IT consulting, they'll know which way to go, because a W3R is a big company and it does a lot of different things. And so it's very important to communicate that in as little clicks as possible. And that's kind of where we are with the project. So
a lot of MBEs are under the impression that you meet someone, you give them your business card, you call them, a day later, a day after that, they say, I'm going to hire you to do X, Y, or Z.
Mm-hmm.
We all know it's not that straightforward and not that simple. Can you share with us how this relationship came together?
In our particular case, we were just seeking counsel relationships. And so you were, the first relationship for us in the diversity council space there in the greater New England area, and just always so welcoming and shepherding us into the community there. And so that's how it starts, right? You have to have leadership that is willing to bring you into the fold and make introductions. And so we thank you for that, because that's the starting point that allowed us to even meet Ramon and his organization. And, obviously there's some things that we all have in common, and, that makes the relationship building easier. And in some ways, it's a feeling that you get. And so the one thing that I like to tell MBEs as we kind of go through this conversation is, you have to be willing to participate. So those that are present are the ones that are likely to win, right? And so you have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and say that I need something, I need help, I need assistance. You have to be willing to show up, and you have to be willing to do the work. And so those are those kind of bedrock principles that I don't think we didn't deviate from that with the relationship that we built there in the Boston area. And this is kind of the byproduct of that. So we're looking to continue to do this with other MBEs and other corporate relationships in the marketplace. And I think it's just, when you're around and you're present and there is opportunity, the last thing I like to also leave MBEs with is, put your money where your mouth is. It's one thing to talk about doing MBE to MBE business. But for us, it's kind of a cultural DNA component now. We've been around 27 years. Technology firms maybe have a little bit of an advantage because we do a lot of partnership and collaboration. Sometimes we even call it coopetition because there's folks that we compete with, but there's ways to collaborate. But it's a natural kind of component for technology firms to be able to do that. So we have an advantage that way, but at the same time, we buy goods and services like anyone else. And when we see talent, what do you normally say, Ramon? Iron sharpens iron, or
yes,
something along those lines, right? So when I see folks like you guys that are experts in your area, we're a technology firm, but I still would default to experts like you guys to counsel us on what we need to do from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, and you bring up some good points there that I want to make sure that we emphasize to the MBEs watching, and that is that you have to do the work. This when we were pre-gaming here and looking back at the timeline, that fireside chat, Peter asked me to host it. I could have easily said no, or I'm not comfortable, or it's not my thing. I'm not a panel host for a living, right? So, but Peter saw that there could be some potential synergy there. I'm sure that I was on maybe a short list, hopefully, of candidates for that role, and I accepted the task. It was volunteer, right? And it was just part of the service that being part of the council, it's par for the course, right? So that day, I just had fun with it. It was during the pandemic. We're going back to May. I think we figured out it was May 2020. And it was a similar discussion, but it was with your W3R's new venture or new contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so I met Eric for the first time. I met Carolyn, the gentleman from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I was given some questions by the council, and it was going to be recorded. But that we had so much fun during that panel. That there was some clear synergy there. There was no business. I didn't go into it like I'm going to get business out of this. It was literally sure. I'm doing service for the council. I'm going to be exposed. This is going to be on video. This is going to be shared. I knew that there were some inherent benefits for me from a brand awareness standpoint is because people are like, okay, there's Ramon again. He's somewhere, he's doing something else. But that's part of what we do is, as business development for my company, I've got to keep our brand on the radar. So that was the extent of my expectation. We did that panel on May of 2020. We played golf September 30th of 2021. We had a lot of fun there, and then we hung out a little bit afterwards and we got to know each other. Remember, we kind of did a round table talking about each other's families and so on and so forth. So I think that was kind of like the let's get to know each other. There's still no business being discussed. It wasn't until, and I'm looking at this, November. So 2 months went by before Eric and Carolyn reached out and said, hey, by the way, we're interested, we might be doing some work on our website. It sounds like that's what you do. Can you just send us your capabilities, or can we have a meeting to go over your capabilities? And so we were like, sure. It seemed like a logical next step. There was still nothing that I was bidding on or quoting on. So if you go back May 2020, then September 30th, 2021, then November 2021 was the capabilities presentation. The contract that we sent, once we actually were quoting a project, wasn't until February of this year, 2022. So it's almost 2 years you can think of, and it didn't seem that long.
You know, for everyone who's listening in, I know the answer to this question, and let me tell you why I know the answer. Ramon is not only on my board, but he's a prior recipient of our MBE to MBE Empowerment Award.
Yes.
But I got to ask this question so we get it on the record. Ramon, have you done business with other MBEs before?
Yes, I have, and it was at that awards gala. First of all, I do a lot of business with other MBEs. Partner with other MBEs to go after business as well. But it was at that event that probably, I want to say that was 2019. It was at the MGM in Springfield. But Dr. Akbar and I were both in running for this. We were both nominees for this same award. And I edged her out and I got the award, but we sat down afterwards and she said, I'm about to merge two nonprofits and I don't know what to do. How do we turn them into something else? So this became a big project for us, one of the bigger projects for us in 2019 that spanned over the course of a year. But we helped her merge two nonprofits into a new one with naming and branding, and they're still a client to this day. But it was at the award ceremony, MBE to MBE Empowerment. So I'm a big proponent of it, absolutely.
So Eric and Carolyn, is this the first time you've done business with another MBE?
No, not at all. I think we probably have about 17 years experience or so. I think working with other MBEs, we definitely try to make it a focus. It's evidenced by the amount of spend that we have on an annual basis. A significant portion of our spend is through MBEs, and just to kind of parrot that sentiment of what Ramon and Eric were talking about earlier, I think the time, almost like there's 3 T's, right? It's time, it's trust, there's tenacity. Tenacity being the work piece that Ramon had mentioned before. Lots of effort to go into, figuring each other out, building that trust. Your business is important to you, and you want to make sure that we're not just spending with other MBEs, but that the fit is right, that the relationship is right, that that relationship is paramount to making sure that future business opportunity is going to be something that you're comfortable with and that there's delivery. So we try to, and Eric, I think it might be beneficial for you to maybe mention a little bit of this, but mentor other MBEs. We also learn from other MBEs. Ramon is no exception in helping to educate us on the digital space and on all of the marketing and brand awareness. We can learn from each other. And I think that's the biggest benefit is we all have something to give. We all have some way to support, and keeping that open mind of a dual relationship that it's not just taking and receiving, but also giving back as well. So I said a lot there.
Really well said. I would just add to that though, our mission, kind of personal translated into corporate mission for our leaders, is to give back, whether that's through individual contributions of students from a mentoring program or recipients of scholarships and things of that nature, to organizational growth. And we look to mentor other companies, whether that's through our, kind of partner programming or the things that we do on the side, right? We sit on a number of diversity council boards as well as other outside boards, but it's an opportunity for us to give back and grow that next generation of corporate leaders as well, right? So we do a number of different things, and that's the interesting part of the day. We're very fortunate that running the business is still work, and we've got a lot of folks doing it, and we dip in and out of that, but being able to do some of the developmental activities that are going to take care of the next generation, that's where we spend a lot of our focus. And quite frankly, that's, the joy and the return comes from a lot of that work as well. So thanks for bringing that up, Carolyn. We've done a good job at it, but there's always more work to do.
So Carolyn touched on this in terms of the benefits of this relationship. And, I know money is green, and that's the color that probably matters the most to both Peralta Design and W3R. But aside from the financial aspects of the relationship, are there any special benefits, in addition to what Carolyn alluded to, or any additional value that you both found from doing business with another MBE that you'd like to share with us?
I can go ahead. I think that I'll just speak on the visit when you guys came over here recently. This is after we were engaged. You guys were in town on business, and had an opportunity to kind of take a small detour and come visit our headquarters here. And again, I think that solidifies the relationship a bit more. And I was very proud to host you, because in this day and age, you can do a lot of this virtually and never really see the operations or never look behind the curtain. And I really wanted W3R to, maybe it's an MBE thing, but I wanted to show you behind the curtain. I wanted you to meet the team. I wanted you to see that we were a living and breathing operation that was taking care of you, and get to meet Jorge and Kevin and the people that were working on it. But also we had some opportunity for fellowship. We took you out to lunch, and that was fun. And also, to answer Peter's question, we started a podcast a couple of years ago, primarily to highlight our clients for free. It's just, we're big on content marketing, but it's like we created a platform where we're published on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the major outlets. Doesn't cost our clients anything, and it's a pride thing, because I want more people to know that there are companies like W3R out there, that there are leaders like Eric out there. I want people to hear the story of how Eric started the company, and I want them to hear Carolyn, why Carolyn stays there, why culture is important. And these are all things that are important to MBE. So that's beyond the deal that we have and the work that we're doing. That's an added value where we get to work together, but also let other people know, like tell it on the mountain that these are two MBEs working together in two different parts of the country, and you can do it too. And I think there's value there and inspiration there, and getting so that we can actually put some good news out there that can inspire other business owners and maybe change the narrative, or maybe change some of the misconceptions that people have. And so I did want to share that. I really enjoyed having them visit. I definitely want to come out and visit their headquarters. That's all part of this relationship building. So I think it's very important that MBEs realize that we're out here. Let's get together. Let's learn about each other. Let's work together, and let's highlight each other too.
Normally, when we start these kinds of MBE to MBE relationships, it's almost like family, to a certain degree. We spend a lot of time together in forums and functions. We overlap, and for W3R, we do a ton of events. And so we like to find relationships in geographies where we're going to be that, are mutually beneficial for that aspect as well. It's continuing the networking, it's continuing kind of the brand and imaging component. And I don't know if Ramon really realizes this or not, but he's really our brand ambassador. You may not have known that he's taken on that moniker, but we're looking for those kinds of relationships where it's a very mutual thing. And for us, we will continue to do things in the geography that makes sense, but we're always going to want to pull in family. We're going to want to pull in Ramon and whoever Ramon thinks is appropriate around all that, but we're always going to look to do that, Peter. And that's the piece that when you start to look around the country at councils that have pockets of MBE suppliers that are doing well, usually they're linked together, through one set of relationships, activities, engagements, whatever it may be. There's some thread that's linking these successful MBEs inside these councils together. And so we want to continue to participate in that. And so for us, we just recognize it, and it's just natural for us. It's like, again, just doing what you would do for your brother, your cousin, or whatever. And that's just how we are made these days. And again, it's fun. It's fun. We have a ton of fun doing it, and it's fulfilling too.
Yeah, if I go ahead and add, it kind of aligns and bridges the two statements that both Ramon and Eric were talking about. Ramon, I appreciate all the sentiment that you stated there, but likewise, W3R is very proud to be able to suggest Peralta Designs as an organization, another MBE that somebody could turn to for services as well. It was actually on a call with you, Peter, and some individuals from the GNEMSDC. As a follow-up, I was having conversation, and one of the questions came back to us if we did website design. And of course, I'm going to decline that because that is the furthest thing from what we do in our area of expertise. But I was very, very happy and proud to be able to suggest Peralta Designs as somebody that they should be in contact with. And I think that speaks to, as you were mentioning, Ramon, yes, I'm very fond of our culture at W3R. It is definitely one of the reasons why I stay around. So many more reasons than that, but just the family-like mentality of how we support each other. We support our vendors, other MBEs, how we sometimes work with our clients. There's the business aspect, but there is that trust and that wanting to see other MBEs thrive.
So let me just shift a little bit, because you so far have talked about this relationship from the perspective of Peralta Design and W3R and how it formed, how it's developing, and where it's going, which is all incredibly powerful. You are, leaders in this network of the 12,000 minority businesses that have been certified across the country. And if you think about the power of minority business development in this country, there are almost 1 million minority-owned businesses with employees that have 1.1 trillion in revenue. So from your perspective as leaders in this network, leaders in the minority business community, servant leaders in the communities in which you operate, can you, in other words, restate what you've said throughout this conversation about the benefit of minority businesses doing business with each other? Because I think everyone needs to hear that loud and clear, because we all know Ramon is, as I said, is our co-chair of our MBEIC, which is the Minority Business Input Committee, how minority businesses get certified. They don't get as much business as they would like from corporate America. They get frustrated and they give up. But I need for you in your position as leaders to really make the case why more minority businesses should look for opportunities to do business with each other, whether it's supplier client relationships, teaming relationships, JVs, whatever it is.
I'll take a first stab at that. And Peter, as you may remember, I still chair the IT sector, part of the Michigan Council's MBIC, and I see this all the time and have conversations in different forms that we have in Michigan. Nobody knows your business like you do, but next best to that is another MBE who's also in the same boat as you, who understands the dynamics, the competitive landscape, maybe the maturity that it takes to compete at an enterprise level for a client. And so again, we refer to people, if you show up, you will get benefit. And it's important for people to maybe utilize the tools and resources differently. There is I think an initial mindset that if they're signed up and they're a member, that all of a sudden relationships happen and contracts come. Well, we all know that that's not the way it happens, and you must work at it. And so I think the idea that MBEs can be supportive of each other is key. I think the idea that MBEs can drive revenue for each other is key. And then I think there's this other element where we need to remember that we can learn from each other. And one of the benefits of these councils is that the member corporations are expecting to get mature, viable MBEs to come and compete for business when they have opportunities. And it's our job as MBEs to make sure that we're being responsible and respectful of that, and that we're helping each other drive to that level of maturity. And again, I think where there's an opportunity to cooperate, compete, collaborate, whatever the right words are there in your industry, take advantage of that. Don't be afraid of that. I think sometimes, folks are looking at the total pie and thinking they don't want to split the pie, but realistically, looking back on it, after 27 years, there's so much opportunity. We're only scratching the surface in terms of our engagement inside of where the spin really is. And if collaboration or partnering, teaming really gets us to the next level, it's something that we should be doing more of. And we have a bias in the IT side of the world. It's a little easier for us to do that. But I've seen others do it in other industries, and we should be teaching classes on really how folks should be going about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I will say that, networking is a contact sport. I've been at this 14 years now, and I still join in on the MBE orientation meetings, and I'm still going around the horn virtually these days, but I still go around the horn and I still pitch my business. I don't wait until I don't have any business to say, okay, I need to get out there, and I'm busy, but I'm still pitching like day one. Yep. I'm still attending events like day one. And if I can't make the event, I send a representative there to represent us. And if I can't attend, then I sponsor, so that at least my logo is going to be there. But you have to participate. It's not passive. And every single time I've established relationships or met someone new or closed business, it's been through physically being there, taking action, or doing some sort of follow-up and relationship building. And it's not going to come to you. You've got to go get it. You've got to go get it. So that would be, and again, to Eric's point, I don't believe in scarcity. I believe in abundance. Every time I hear of another creative agency or another digital agency or another MBE that does something similar to what we do, I immediately reach out to them and I say, let's pair up on something.
So as we glide toward the finish line today, I'd like to ask the three of you to give me some advice, because Ramon has heard me probably more than he wants to hear talk about the benefits of MBE to MBE commerce. And I think it's a natural. When I ran my company, I tried to find and use MBEs as often as I could. But I realized there must be some challenges and barriers, because not everyone in this network, and not everyone even outside of this network who's an MBE, thinks and acts like the three of you. What are some of the barriers and challenges that I can help address so that we have even more MBE to MBE commerce, so that we have more stories like this that can change the needle. Because I don't just focus on supplier diversity, I focus on MBE development. And I do think if you think about those numbers I shared a few minutes ago, 1 million MBEs with paid employees with 1.1 trillion in revenue, that's a huge market out there. So how can we and how can I help address some of those challenges and remove some of those barriers so that we have even more MBE to MBE commerce?
Well, I would just start by saying forums like this are a great starting point from a platform perspective to give some voice to modeling or framework that has been successful, so that people can kind of learn from that and take advantage of that. I think there's an opportunity maybe to look around at some of your MBIC leadership and kind of get folks together, and there might be some programming ideas that happen once a year that create similar type of mentorship or at least Q&A for folks. I think for us, what I've seen in different regions, whether it's Chicago or Detroit or out in Boston, some of the larger MBEs are willing to participate differently. Oftentimes, the mission of the council to service the smaller MBEs and the larger MBEs becomes a conflicted story because the wants and needs are different on both ends of that spectrum. But once a year, twice a year programming and frameworking, I think the larger MBEs are certainly open, willing, and able to participate in a way that provides some mentorship to folks to understand what it's like to do MBE to MBE business. I think at the same time, we have to challenge one another. Certainly some of the larger MBEs challenging one another for how they look at their portfolio and creating opportunity for folks to do business with them or take them into deals with them, I think is also appropriate. And I know when we get that question put to us, it's something that we kind of honor and cherish as our responsibility. We don't look at it as anything other than it's an opportunity for us to help them get back.
Yeah. That's great. I will add, and Carolyn, I just want to give you, did you want to add anything?
Just to kind of support Eric's sentiment, I think forums like this platform, just share some of the experiences that we've had, the challenges, but as well as the success, so that individuals have their expectations set properly, is one of the best things that we can do. You're also adding relationships and introductions to individuals like the MBDA to help support other introductions has been very beneficial. So I think continuing to do things like that to provide some guidance and some connections that way is fantastic. The one thing that none of us have or that we can expand anymore is the hours of the day. So anything that we can do to shorten the cycle of education and helping individuals figure out how to narrate the best path forward to that business is definitely, I think, beneficial to any MBE.
Yeah. Awesome. Peter, I will add something very personal to me because I recently lost a $110,000 opportunity because we missed an RFP deadline by 1 day. And I only know that because once I got notified that we went in another direction, I always ask, well, what could we have done differently, candidly? And oftentimes I don't get an answer. Sometimes I do. This time, the respondent said, to be honest, you missed the deadline by a day, and it planted the seed of doubt that you could be able to execute. And yes, it hurt, but it was a valuable lesson and something that that I brought back to my team. Now I have 11 full-time employees, and we still didn't have the capacity to, for one reason or another, not meet that deadline. And so I think of the fact that 90% of small businesses don't have any employees. And I think it's something that from a development standpoint, we need to encourage our MBEs to build capacity, to scale, because they lose a lot of opportunities. If I lost that, I can't imagine the smaller companies that's one guy or one gal making the sale, doing the work, writing the contract. And there are a lot of them out there like that. And so I think professional development around forming strategic partnerships, getting a mutual NDA in place between two MBEs, getting a white label rate agreements in between MBEs, so that when the opportunity appears, you can activate and you reach out to another MBE and say, hey, let's partner up and go after this. But if you're not ready to do that and you get an RFP opportunity and the deadline is a couple of weeks away and you're busy because you do everything and you don't have agreements in place, you're going to have to let that go. And I think some programming around streamlining the proposal process, writing better contracts, strategic partnership agreements, I think would benefit, because in the interim, before you actually start hiring, maybe your first step is to partner with another firm. And then if you find yourself partnering quite often, either one is going to acquire the other or you're going to hire more people. But it's got to start somewhere, and I think the council can help in that area.
So before we close, that's a perfect segue for me. The Greater New England Council, thanks to the support of companies like Peralta Design and W3R Consulting, we provide business development services and capacity building services to MBEs at no charge to them, not only through the council, but also we operate a Minority Business Development Center that's funded by the U.S. Commerce Department's Minority Business Development Agency. So we can do that at no charge. So thanks for giving me the opportunity for that plug. But let me wrap this up by thanking Ramon, Eric, and Carolyn. I think this has been a very beneficial conversation. This is a very, very important pathway for minority businesses to grow and prosper. I hope that in addition to looking to do business with corporate America, more and more minority-owned businesses look to do business with each other, because the numbers are there, the opportunity is there, and in addition to making money, it's clear that the three of you have fun working together. So you can't beat that.
Right.
So Carolyn, Eric, Ramon, thank you for this success story, and thank you for sharing the journey from an initial contact to what is now, seems to be a great professional and personal relationship. We appreciate you.